All right. In grade 12, vocal music, for the past several years, I would say 6, 7 years even, I've been using this project called Music as Identity as a way of getting students to think about the music that they've listened to throughout their lives and continue to listen to even now, as a way of showing people how that music has shaped their identity. So Music as Identity is about what music you like and what it says about you. I have to give a special shout out to a teacher in New York. His name is Nicholas Jaworski, and he was the one who first kind of created this project, and I really thought the idea was great, and I've asked him for permission to use this, and he was totally cool with it, and so shout out to him. Thank you for a good idea. If you think about memes these days, they are everywhere. You can't go on social media, I think, at all without seeing a meme. Typically it's a picture and some sort of quote, and it's meant to be funny, of course, and they go viral really quick. Songs can kind of do that as well. Now, years ago, a 13-year-old girl named Rebecca Black rose to quick fame, kind of overnight in a sense. And maybe she regrets it or not, or maybe she doesn't, I don't know. But she released a song called Friday, and maybe you're familiar with it. And that song kind of just climbed up the charts on YouTube. And it was an attempt by her parents, I believe, to hire some musicians to create this music video for their daughter, just to help her kind of get her name out there and stuff. And as of 2019, anyway, on September 22nd, there was, 136 million views or so. And that's pretty small by today's standards. But back then, that was when it first came out. Years ago, it was getting a lot of attention. Now the thing is about that song, it kind of became its own meme at the time, and unfortunately, this girl received a lot of negative feedback on YouTube. Sometimes YouTube can be a not so nice community of people, and or sometimes people just don't think about what they're posting online because they don't know that it actually affects people. And people were posting some really inappropriate comments about or to her, and my heart goes out to Rebecca Black, because whether you like a song or not doesn't mean you should wish harm upon a person. But how does a 13-year-old girl do that? How does she release this song, and this song now becomes a big deal in some ways? And that leads us to think about music as something that can be powerful, influential, and individual. See, music can be powerful because it has the power to transcend nations and cultures and age groups. There are songs and artists out there that people are aware of globally, even though maybe they're from New York or Los Angeles in the States. People across oceans and in different continents will listen to that artist as well. Michael Jackson was an example of that in the 80s, and it was just astounding at the time of just how much power music has. There's many artists that we could list as examples of that today or in the past. Music can also be influential. People are influenced by it. They might change their color of their hair, they might change the clothes they wear, the friends they have, just based on the music that they listen to. And sometimes because you like a certain artist, you start to maybe dress the way that they dress, or that artist will spark a movement of fashion or hair color or whatever, and it just shows that music can influence us. And it also is very individual at the same time. You can like music that people around you might not like, and sometimes we keep that music to ourselves. We call this maybe a guilty pleasure. Maybe you don't want to admit that you listen to some song out there or some artist because you don't know how your friends would feel about that, and it's music that's very individual to you. So music can be powerful, influential, and individual all at the same time. So this project gets you to think about where music has taken you. How have you become what you have become, and what music has taken you there? Is there something about music that's changed you in some way? Now, I'm not pretending that music is the only thing that can change you. Obviously, there are bigger influences in your life. But if you stop to think about it, music is part of your life's journey. And so that's what you're really trying to reflect upon. If I were in class with you and we had this as a discussion, I'd be asking you, like, is there a song that you hate now, but you knew you loved when you were younger? It could have been even like a year ago that you loved something, but now you can't stand to listen to that song. And it's not that you necessarily, or it's not that the song got worse over time. It's not like it went bad and it's past its due date. But there's something about you maybe that's different now, and you're like, I can't believe I used to like that song. Well, the creator of this project, Nicholas Jaworski, he says, elementary students may like the latest pop idol, like Justin Bieber or whatever, and more likely than not, those same students will not like the Bieb in a few years. What explains this? The music has not changed, yet suddenly its ability to be enjoyed has. It's like the song hasn't changed. The recording stays the same. Even if it was made 50 years ago, you press play now, it's the recording. It's still there. But something about you and how you've changed since that time allows you to either enjoy that song more or less because you've changed. Your identity has been formed even more. So what has been your journey? How has music shaped you? I want you to think about that. Think back to your musical likes and dislikes. Think about how some songs may be instrumental in shaping you, no pun intended. And so your goal is to find 6 songs. Now, it might be hard to go down to 6 songs, like to say, well, there's only these 6 songs that have been important, but I know students have a hard time kind of narrowing it down to that, but do your best. If you had to go to 7, that's okay, but let's not go more than that. But 6 songs is where we're aiming for here. And I want you to find 6 songs that you can link to something in your life. Sometimes there's that piece of music that you were listening to when you got some really great news, and because that song was playing in the background, and when you think about that really great news time of your life, that song comes to mind. Or whenever you hear that song now, you think about that great news that you received. On the flip side, maybe there's a song that you were listening to when you got some bad news, and that would be an example for me. I remember receiving a phone call that my grandmother had passed away years ago now, but when there was a piece of music in the background when I got that phone call, and so there's something tied to that. There's obviously the emotional hurt of losing my grandmother was bad, but at the same time, that song is now linked to that event in my life. But it could be something even less emotional for you. It could be something that there's a song that you always rock out to while you're cooking. Maybe if you're learning to cook with your family and this song comes on and everyone starts to dance to it, Maybe that's just something that that has shaped you in some way, or it's just at least a memory that you always go back to when you think of those important songs in your life. And I'll just give you maybe one more example. Sometimes people will talk about in this project about a style of music, and then they use a song as an example of that style. But maybe it's that your parents, when they drive you to school and pick you up, that parent will always listen to a specific genre of music, and maybe by doing that day in and day out, you're always listening to that genre, you ended up loving that, or at least appreciate that style, because it's become part of who you are. You know, your dad likes hard rock music or whatever, and so now it's not that you listen to hard rock all the time, but when you hear it, it makes you think about your car trips. So you're going to think about those 6 songs, and then you're going to create this either as a podcast or as a slideshow in Google Slides or PowerPoint or Keynote, and you're going to determine what you like. If you go to the Music as Identity webpage, which is right here, www.edenarts.ca/musicasid, you will find a sample kind of podcast version that I created. I don't have a sample slides version, but you'll have to determine that. But there's also the instruction sheet there, so you should look through that instruction sheet to see what is required of you. Okay, if you have any questions, please email me or reach out to me, and I'll be glad to help you out.